Grant Robertson.
Very much, Mr Speaker. I want to begin, as my colleague David Parker did, by remembering our departed colleague Parakura Horomia today. I miss Parakura. I miss him from this House. I miss his influence on our caucus. I miss being told to shut up by him when I talk too long in our caucus meetings. And he was a person who told us in the Labour Party to hold the line, which we are and we will. But I do remember, if I remember one thing from this term of Parliament, it was the scene at the Huati Marae where he was farewelled. He was farewelled as a loved member of his community, of his whānau, of his iwi, but by his people. Parakura was the model of an electorate MP who knew his people. They knew him, they could talk to him, he could talk to them, and we miss his presence in this House today. Mr Speaker, can I also acknowledge all of the departing members from the House? I've certainly appreciated all of the valedictory statements that I've heard, a wide variety of them. I want to make a couple of specific acknowledgements. I want to acknowledge Tariana Turia for the words that she said in her valedictory speech about a number of Labour Party colleagues. Everybody knows the history of Tariana's departure from the Labour Party and the grief that was around that, but I took her words in a spirit of generosity when she spoke, and I particularly wanted to acknowledge her comments about our former colleague, the Honourable Darren Hughes, and note that they were very much appreciated on this side of the House. Mr Speaker, can I acknowledge the two members of your team who are departing us, H.V. Ross Robertson, brackets no relation, close brackets, say that for the last time, and Eric Roy. They have both been excellent and loyal servants of this House. They are people that we on this opposition side of the House deal with a lot during the committee stages, along with Lindsay Tish, and we want to acknowledge all of their work for running this place in a fair and firm manner. To you, Mr Speaker, thank you for your role. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'm secretly disappointed you've never followed through on your threat to throw me out of the House. I need to get my bad boy image up a little bit, Mr Speaker, but we thank you for the work. Yeah, I've got about 7.5 minutes, so you never know. Mr Speaker, we thank you for your work in the House. I also want to add my acknowledgements to colleagues as have made to all of the staff who support us, both here in the building. I want to particularly thank Mary Harris, the Clerk of the House, and her team, who do just such an amazing and professional job when we behave in an incredibly difficult manner. Mary always smiles when Jerry Brownlee comes up with a new idea at the Business Committee and manages to make it work within the standing orders, and I thank you for that, Mary. I also thank all of the security staff, the messengers, the Bellamy staff, Parliamentary Library. I particularly want to acknowledge two groups, our staff who work in our out-of-Parliament offices. If anyone needs a reminder of this, I got it yesterday when I got a phone call from my out-of-office staff to say that they had had to call the police because someone had tried to rip the door off in a rage actually about an election poster that had been pasted up somewhere near their house, which seemed an unusual thing to be that upset about. But in all seriousness, every single day our staff are out there on the front line dealing with some of the most difficult problems in our community, and I thank all of them, Labour Party and other staff as well. And the last group that I want to particularly acknowledge are the spouses and partners of MPs. Every single departing member has mentioned at length the support that they have had from their partners and spouses and how they would not have been able to do their jobs as parliamentarians without them. That is so true, Mr Speaker. Those who are the people who look after us, have their own lives, look after the families, are people who I think New Zealanders need to understand just the pressure that is, but the amazing support that we're provided by all of our spouses and partners, and I thank them all on behalf of the Labour team. It's been an interesting Parliament, Mr Speaker. I won't dwell too on it, but there is one day that sticks in my memory, and it is the day that we passed the marriage equality law that Kevin Haig mentioned before. It also came straight off the back of another Labour member's bill that also passed that day. It's like the Commonwealth Games. It was our golden hour or our golden evening, where we also passed the bill that will mean that Anzac Day and Waitangi Day, when they fall on the weekend, will now be a public holiday. Yeah, the bill, in the name of Dr. David Clark. Possibly drafted by somebody else, but we'll leave that for the Hansard of previous days. But that was a day where on this side of the House we felt we were really achieving something very important, and also in terms of the marriage equality bill. I know for a lot of people this was raised as an issue that somehow wasn't one of the things that matter. Well, I think everybody in the House will know from the amount of correspondence we received, from the amount of interest that there was in that this did matter. This was an important social advance, and it made Maurice Williamson an international TV star, which may or may not be a good thing. The other acknowledgement that I would like to make to the government, before I get stuck into them as per normal, is actually around the question of the passing of treaty legislation. I do believe that in this Parliament, using the extended hours provisions, we have as a Parliament been able to make a very important and special difference in the way in which that legislation passes. And every single settlement that passes goes through this House with a huge level of emotion and a huge sense of opportunity for the iwi involved, and I think it is a very important part of what we are doing at the moment. Mr. Speaker, we get the chance to spend the next 50 days in our 3-yearly job interview, and what an opportunity it is for us to travel around this great country of ours. When I think about New Zealand, I think about a country with amazing natural advantages to which we as a country have added considerable advantages of our own effort. We've done that in terms of having one of the longest unbroken democracies in the world, as my colleague David Parker often tells us. We do that by standing up for ourselves on the world stage. And all of those things that are important about New Zealand, about being an egalitarian country, is what this election should be about. My Labour Party colleagues will be familiar with Norman Kirk's great saying. Well, we could do it in unison if you like. What New Zealanders want is somewhere to live, somewhere to work, someone to love, and something to hope for, Mr. Speaker. And that is what this election will be about. I will deliver someone to love for you, Jacinda Ardern. It will happen. It will happen. Mr. Speaker, on the question of jobs, of homes and of families, that is what this election will be fought upon. It will be fought upon whether or not New Zealanders get a fair share from the economic growth that the government promises us. It'll be about whether we reduce child poverty, whether we create decent jobs, whether or not all New Zealanders can live in warm, dry, safe homes. Those are the issues that we will be campaigning on in the Labour Party, and I relish the opportunity to get out there and be a part of that. And Mr. Speaker, the positive vision that Labour has for this country stands in contrast to a government that has now become known for its arrogance, for its rorts, for its conflicts of interest and for its dodgy deals. And there's not time enough today to go through all of those. But it is time to ensure that we have a look at Team Key, the first 15. There it is. Mr. Speaker, I'll run through very briefly a couple of the player profiles from Team Key, the first 15. John Banks. John Banks' season came to a premature end after his cabbage boat became marooned on an island of arrogance and willful blindness. Likely to shift next season to a new club, the Paremaremo Pirates. Playing in the hooker position, Peter Dunn, in and out of the team all season, confuses his teammates with his record of playing for both sides. Lost the trust of his teammates when he leaked details of the game plan. Playing at prop, Judith Collins tried to ingratiate her teammates with her provision of half-time milk, but her strategy of getting her retaliation in first backfired when she kneecapped herself. Still much loved for leading the team in the rendition of their team song, Don't Cry For Me, Oravida. Murray McCulley, playing at lock, the team's virtual member. No longer a physical presence in the team, also failed to show up to any trainings this year due to a failure to open any emails. And then Jerry Brownlee. A late-season fitness drive has seen a positional shift, and he's getting legendary status around the country where security staff everywhere encourage people not to do a Brownlee. And then there's the open-side flanker, Maurice Williamson, often found roaming the field and out of position. After a promising start in his guest appearance for the Rainbow Warriors, he was escorted from the field during the game against the Police. And then there is the team captain, John Key. He led by example from halfback, hiding behind the forwards, evading, dodging, and then his low point, giving his mate the job for the team head of security. Mr. Speaker, this is the National Party First 15. This is the high standard that John Key said he would bring to New Zealand. At this election, Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders get a choice between a government led by the Labour Party that will focus on families, on homes and on jobs, and on a tired, out-of-touch, arrogant national government. This side will win.
Louise